Look at that now, boys. Looking good, innit, eh? Say hello to Blads. Hello, Bladder. The fuck was that noise? Did you hear that? Okay. So, all cleaned, ACF coated, detailed, looking absolutely gorgeous at the minute. Everything looks so nice and shiny and new. Right, so we're going to be talking really about what is going on with this thing now. Give you an update as to where we're at, where the complaints are up to, all that kind of stuff, you know. Just want to check as you can see there's no coolant in it at the minute, and I am getting what looks like more of a leak and a drip down there. We haven't discovered what the problem is with that yet, but yeah. But yeah, she's looking good, you know, properly looking after her, taking care of her, all that good stuff. I've basically just left it as is for now because I'm not damaging it. Right, so essentially what's happening with this thing is I've been at the finance company, I've been to them again to basically have a moan. We've put another complaint out. This is the 4th or 5th complaint that I've put out against this thing now. Each one hasn't really been seen to with the kind of urgency that I think it deserves. So essentially what's happening is it's currently sitting with the finance company. This new complaint that I've put out is against the coolant, against the front brake, against the front rotors. That's been there since the start, and I'm convinced it's a warp disc at this point because you can feel it when you're riding. I mean, look at that; these are scratching up already. Look, because of the cables. I'm having to get an independent inspector. Thankfully, thanks to Motor Novo, they've actually been pretty good with this complaint. What they've done is they've paid for an independent inspector to come out, so basically just have a look, you know, get a professional opinion and help me out as much as he can, because this has been an ongoing complaint. The coolant issue and the rotors have been an ongoing complaint since I got the bike. When the bike was in with its ignition issues last time, where I couldn't turn the bike on, basically I asked them if they could have a look at that, and they didn't. So yeah, that's fun. I'm convinced that they're warped, the discs are warped, but basically what I've said is that, you know, I shouldn't be having these kinds of problems. I've got a list of problems. If you're new to the channel, I've got a list of problems that have happened with this thing. It's been in and out of the garage just constantly. It's been an absolute just pain in the butt, it has been. But no, essentially, I'm trying to get this gone at the minute, and it's been very, very difficult. I've had to go to the ombudsman. I've had to do all sorts of stuff in order to try and get anywhere with it. And thankfully, the chap on the phone the other day, when I was having a bit of a nightmare with this thing, he turned around and he said, because the complaint has been, the issue's been fixed, the complaint is closed, even though, you know, I've been having issues ongoing since I've got the thing. First few weeks I had issues with it, and now I've basically raised a new complaint. We can go through that properly together and hopefully be able to get this sorted out, because it is really a pain in the arse. You know, you shouldn't having to be paying all this money for something that doesn't work. So that's where this is at the minute. I can't ride it. I haven't ridden it in quite a while now, actually. Calm down. Yeah, I've not ridden this in quite a while now, to be fair, and I can't ride it until this inspector comes out and has a look at it. Obviously, with no coolant in it, I wouldn't want to run it anyway, just because, you know, the potential issues that could mean for an engine. It's not good. So yeah, I'm basically stuck with, again, for weeks with a bike that is in front of me and I can't use and I'm paying for. So I just find it just ridiculous at this point. You know, like I said to you in the past, if you've seen any of my videos in the past, like, I absolutely love the thing when it works, but half the time it just doesn't work. And I shouldn't have to be paying for something like that. You know, the minimum I expect is a discount. I've tried looking at selling it, but they want to give me 11 grand for it at the minute because KTM's have offers on. I think the KTM's are offering 14 grand for these at the minute or something. When I bought this, it was 16.5. So on finance, it's about £18,500 that I'm paying for this thing. And I don't think anybody paying that amount of money should get these issues. I think you should just get either a new bike, big discount, or they can take the bike back from me. Now I've got all my original parts and stuff. I'd put it back to stock and they can have it back, but you know, so then I can just take the bits off that I bought for it. You know, these parts and the handlebars, because of my injuries, I had to put different handlebars on here because the other ones were giving me a really bad cramp. Obviously the wings and all that kind of shit, and the pipe can come off. It's not exactly a difficult task. So yeah, that's where we're at with this thing at the minute. It looks amazing when it works, it's beautiful, but I'm just sick of it now. I really don't want it, do not want it anymore. So we're going to go in and have a further chat. Anyway, let's crack on. Oh, right, the last time we sat down like this, not good things happened. The speed triple happened. So yeah, you're currently on a fish tank, so hopefully you don't fall in. Otherwise, that might actually be quite a good view, that, you know, from the camera. Anyway, digress. So yeah, what can I do about this now? So, like I said, I've raised a lot of complaints to the finance company. I've gone to the ombudsman, which are going to take months and months to do anything. I've put complaints into KTM, and the guys at Chester, they've been sorting me out as much as kind of, like I say, I don't like going to companies and moaning and being that guy, you know what I mean? I don't like it at all, but this has been worse than the speed triple by far. Like, if I'd have known this was coming, I would have probably kept the speed triple and just waited for the oil pump, because that blew or had issues. I can't remember now, it's been too long, but I probably would have just waited for that to come back. But then at the same time, you know how I was feeling about that bike at the time. If you've been following me for this amount of time, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for sticking with me. Like I say, I don't like to fucking sit here and moan and put out negative videos, because it puts across a certain side that people might think that I am, when that's not me. You know, I don't enjoy this. I really don't enjoy this. And the thing is, from my other videos, you know, a lot of people have been having these issues with their SuperDukes, and like we know, KTM are renowned for reliability problems, but I don't think that should be an excuse, quite frankly. If that's the case and so many people are getting these problems, like, there should be some kind of lawsuit, because you know, I'm not in America, but there should be some kind of massive complaint that goes in against them. But that's not going to happen, you know, a class action or something like that. I don't know. I'm not in the US, so without people getting on board with that, I can't really do anything, and I can't afford any kind of legal action against this, you know. And because it's past 6 months now, apparently, that makes it a lot more difficult for me to do anything about this other than trying to sell it. So in terms of other bikes, once this is done, you know, I have a few options. So I can either keep the bike and just put up with it until I pay off enough that will equate the negative equity. So it'll bring down the negative equity, so that when I sell it, it can just be a clean swap, rather than having to owe £3,000 or £4,000, which that's it at the minute. So I think I've got £14,800 odd, you know, to pay off of the bike, and people are offering me about 11 and a half, maybe 12 at a push, but not really many people want to do that. And so that leaves me with £3,000 or £4,000 of negative equity that I would have to find somewhere to then pay that off, to then give the bike back, to then get a new bike, put a deposit on it, hopefully get finance, because that's not a given this day and age, you know. So it's a very tough situation. You know, everybody's struggling at the minute with money, the, you know, penny pinching, cost of living crisis, fuel, gas, all that shit. You know, electric and food bills, and everyone is struggling. You know, and that's just the way things are at the minute. So I've got nothing of assets that I could sell. Not that I would want to. You know, wouldn't want to sell things in order to get rid of this. It's a pain in the bum. So I'm a bit stuck really as to what to do. Hopefully, like I said, the finance company with the complaint procedure that's going through at the minute, hopefully that can help. Like, I'm not sure how long it's going to take. Hopefully they can help me out. The guy, like I said, on the phone to me, was very, very sympathetic. You know, I got a bit passionate the other day when I made my last video. Well, that was a while ago now, to be honest with you, because I was annoyed. You know, I didn't feel like it was being taken seriously. The complaints, I just keep getting shut down with nothing. It just like, your issue's fixed now, go away. He was very sympathetic. He's had issues himself in the past with this kind of stuff, so hopefully I'll be able to get some help with that, you know what I mean? Like, so in terms of bikes going forward, as many of you might know, I've been looking at the MT10. Now the thing is with this, right, is that, like I've said before, my bike is my only vehicle. I don't have a car license. I don't really intend to have a car license. It's my personal choice. Make of that what you will. That's your prerogative, you know. But at the same time, I like bikes for a reason. We like bikes because they're fun. You know, they're a lot of people have them for toys, but I have them for everyday use. And you know, I live on my own. I live away from family. I live away from my girlfriend. I live away from support. So it's very difficult sometimes when you're on your own, especially throughout a pandemic that we've, you know, just come out of. It's been very, very tough for me, at least. So my bike is really one of the things that has given me any kind of joy in the past few years. So I don't want to move on to something that I'm not going to enjoy, because I just see it's pointless. So I have a few options in terms of bikes. So in my head, it is obviously a bike that I'd want to look at and ride, you know, not something that is going to be a cheap piece of shit that's going to break down and cause me more problems, or, you know, older bikes or whatever. Plus with a newer bike, you've got warranties, you've got help and support if needed. The second is going back onto a reliable brand. So my bike history is quite live. I've had quite a lot of bikes, as you might know, and Yamaha, I've never had a problem. Like, never had a problem. I've had an MT-07. That thing was such a fun bike. That was such a good bike because I just got off a Harley. Don't ask me about that. Swapped it for an MT-07. That thing was just so fun. Back in the days, years ago now this was. And then I've also had an MT-09. That thing was flawless. I had that mapped. I actually started off the channel with the MT-09. So if you want to go and see MT-09 flash videos and pottering about, all that kind of stuff back in the COVID days, go and have a look at that. That was a really nice bike. So that's an option, either get the MT-09 SP, because the problem with the MT-09 was the suspension was dog shit, and also it was a very light bike. And yes, light bikes are good, but when I'm doing motorway, and there was no cruise control at the time as well, when I'm doing motorway miles and a lot of sort of long distance stuff and commuting, that kind of thing, it's just not the bike for that. For that kind of stuff. It's very buffety, it's very flighty. So I'm a bit apprehensive to go back on MT-09. If I was, then it would be an MT-09 SP because of the cruise control. Obviously the suspension and upgrades and stuff like that. But they're about 11,000. I was looking at but at the same time, I don't want too much of a step down because I'm used to 180 horsepower, 140 newton meters, fucking torque beast. I like my torque. I don't really care about horsepower. I like my torque. I like my wheelies. I just like the grunt of a twin and a triple, because the speed triple was a good bike, but there were issues with that as well. But that's the other thing. I could go back to a speed triple. Don't really want to. I know what those bikes are like. I'd rather not. The MT-10 is on the list. It's the main one. I wouldn't go for the SP because I can't really afford it. I'd go for the base model. I wouldn't go for PCP again. I'd go for a hire purchase or try and take a loan out, but I've just got rid of a loan. I don't really want to do that again, to be honest with you. Plus you get the finance companies backing and support if there are any problems, which I kind of like. Swings and roundabouts really with that. Other than that, there's not really much. I look at the 210 V4. 210 V4, that would be perfect, but unfortunately there are only a few dealers. There's one in Denbigh, near Flint in North Wales, and there is one in Sheffield. Now, Italian bikes, reliability problems, all that kind of shit. I don't really want this again. Plus, I've rung up my insurance and they've basically said no. So I'd have to cancel my insurance, get another policy out, which means that, half a year of no claims has disappeared, which is not fun. I rung up a few dealers to see if I could test ride one, because the sound of that V4, fuck me, that is such a good bike. It sounds amazing. Rung up a few dealers and they're all getting rid of them. Unless they're low capacity, 125s to 300s, all that kind of stuff. They get the Piaggio stuff, like they are getting rid of them all because they're just not selling, or there are issues and they can't fix it because getting the parts in is too cumbersome, expensive, takes too much time, etc. So I'm kind of put off a 210, even though I would love one. So my options with that are a bit done. And the MT-10 again, it just comes back to the MT-10. So that's probably the one I would go with if I could. That's really it, So I think I'd probably go with the base model, and also it's going to be cheaper as well. So cheaper. Monthly and cheaper overall is good for me. We're all struggling at the minute. If I can get a bike that's just as good, that's cheaper. The only thing that puts me off the MT-10 is the fuel mileage. But then saying that, there's a lot of people that I've spoken to, and Moto UK, who's actually done a fuel video on that on his Matt's MT-10 old gen, and he got 150 mile out of it ish before he completely ran out of petrol. So. And that's average usage. And on the SuperDuke, people were complaining about the mileage there, but I've managed to get 70 mile a gallon out of that thing. I can get 160 mile out of a tank quite comfortably. So that's the thing, is like it's a really good bike. It's just I've fallen out of love with it. I just don't want the issues anymore. I'm sick of having to go to people about it. It's embarrassing. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing. But yeah, there's other ones like the Suzuki's, the GX 6000. Boring. Don't really want one. And again, you might be thinking I'm being picky here, but again, this is like, I can be picky. I'm allowed to be picky. It's something that I'm paying for. So the MT-10 is probably the best bet on that. Yamaha are really struggling at the minute because of COVID, and they were because I inquired about an MT-10 before I bought that thing from the Speed Triple. I inquired about the MT-10 and they turned around and they said, we can't get them in. Like we're waiting for them to be built. People are pre-ordering them, waiting months for them to come in. And we're not getting them in, so there's nowhere around me that I can test ride one. I can't test ride the new MT-10. I wouldn't consider going for an old MT-10 because, again, warranties, all that kind of stuff. Yes, you might get a warranty of pre-owned bike, but yeah, I'd rather get one new. You got the better increased fuel mileage on the new one, and the weight kind of puts me off as well. The weight is 212 kilos, but then saying that, I think the SuperDuke is about 210 fully loaded, and it's actually quite a top-heavy bike. That's one of the things I don't like about it. It's very top-heavy, so it's a very tall bike. I'm 5'11", 6 foot with boots on, and it's very difficult for me to try and flat foot it. My toes are kind of, my heels are up, so if there's any kind of tilt or drop, it's very top heavy. It's one of the things I picked up on. If you look at my original video for taking this out for a test ride when I first got it, I noted it's very top heavy, and moving it about, it's very, it feels like it wants to drop everywhere. So yeah, that's that really. I think it's going to be the MT10 if I can get one. It also cuts down my insurance by 20%, which is amazing. So I'm paying 900 quid for that thing in the minute, insurance a year, which is insane. It was £1.5 grand last year, so yeah. But it cuts it down by 20%, so that's going to be good. I can kind of do with MPG being a bit lower. I could probably put up with that. Like I said, I ride quite sensibly anyway. I'm a very sensible rider. Everyone has a bit of fun every now and then, so if I can, I'm doing a lot of motorway miles as well, so hopefully that will build up the MPG, and I don't think it's as much of a problem as I'm going to think it would be. So yeah, I think it's going to be the MT10. First of all, I've been looking at all the videos and getting hyped up about it, but at the end of the day, I need this bike to be sorted out first before anything like that can happen. So yeah, anyway, just a bit of an update. There's not going to be a video this week of me riding it, because I can't. Until this Investigator comes out and we get it all sorted and fixed, there's nothing that I can't do anything with it really. Like I said, I've got all my original parts, so I can just put it back to stock and give it back if needed, if it comes to that, which I'm happy with. Hopefully they'll give me a bit of a refund as well. But yeah, that's it. So that's me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me again. Hopefully, going back to a more reliable brand, I wouldn't have to do this as much so often, if at all. And I know, like I said, Yami's been my brand for a long time. I've been to Kawasaki, I've had a Z900, I've had all sorts, but nah, I had problems with the Kawasaki's and stuff as well. I've had the Ninja 1000 from Kawasaki, so I've had enough experience to know what's good for me, at least. Touch wood, my luck, I'm looking at Blads and she's going to sleep at the minute, so I think that's time for me to end this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very, very soon, I'm sure. And until the next time, boys and girls, sod 'em out. See you soon. Also, thank you for 1,000 subscribers. Video about that coming up soon. Giveaway. Cheers. See you later. Bye bye.